Hey everyone, welcome back. This is Anne from Shades of Color and Light. We're going to do a very quick project today from the Good Vibes coloring book. This book is full of short quips and short sayings that are full of inspiration for all of us. And today I've chosen one to inspire and hopefully motivate you as well as myself to begin now. And that's the theme for today, begin now. That's what we're going to be talking about. We're also going to stick with our theme from last week, and I'm going to continue to use these Prismacolor Art Markers. Remember, one side has the fat brush point and one is the fine tip pen. I've also decided today is going to be a 3 marker challenge, and these are the colors I've chosen: a light pink, a purple, and a dark pink. So let's get started here. I'd already decided that I liked the purple for the main body of the words, and so that's what I'm going to work on right now, is coloring the main portion of the words. I want those to be very bright and very bold and the main focus of this drawing. After I had picked this coloring page, I was starting to think of everything that might be associated with the words begin now. And my first thought that came to my head was the cliche, seize the moment. But when I went online and I was reading what seize the moment really means, which is taking every opportunity that comes along your way, I thought that's really not what begin now means to me, and it's not exactly what I wanted to convey through coloring this. Not that it's not a good idea to seize the moment and to seize opportunities when they come your way, but when I think about beginning now, I actually think of, more in simpler terms, more simple, something more along the way or along the lines of start where you are, kind of begin where you are. And sometimes I know I said that was in something simpler. I know that beginning now doesn't always mean that it's simple to begin now or that it's easy to begin now. But there's something about the beginning of things that can be both frightening and exciting at the same time. So I don't want to just talk about this as a cliche, just to flippantly advise everyone to begin now. But I'm sure there's things in all of our lives that we've wanted to get started, or we feel we should get started, and we put them off for another day, or we allow things to get in our way, such as the busyness of everyday life, so that instead of pursuing our destiny and the plan that God has for us, we pursue other things and become just too busy for that one thing that we know would fill up our heart and our lives for the good. I know that's something that kind of bothered me for a good share of my life. I felt like I never really got to do those things that was my destiny or my purpose to do. I felt like basically that I would pretty much do anything but get started at doing what I knew I was supposed to do with my life. And I think that's because I was always afraid of two things: success and failure. And you might think, well, who's afraid of success? But many of us are. We're afraid of success because when we start something and we are successful at it, there's the unknown portion of it. We don't know, what will success bring us? Will it bring us what we want, or will it change us to the point that we don't know what our life is? And so I think that we're afraid to succeed doing something of our dreams because we're afraid of the life changes that it will bring. And then on the flip side, I think all of us can understand that we have a fear of failure. And so if we try something that we feel we're called to do, or we were born to do, if we fail at that, then somehow I think we feel like our life is a failure as a whole. And so that's why I think we never do those things that are deep in our heart to do. We just bury them a little deeper. But they're those, because we're supposed to do those, we're meant to do them, we were created to do them, they will pop up periodically in our life, and they will call to us in dreams or something we hear, something we read, and suddenly it kind of activates something inside us, and there it is again, that thing that we always knew we were supposed to do. And as the years go on, sometimes, I don't know, I guess how that looks will change based on our age and our life story, but the desire for it never changes because it's built into us. And so to begin now means there's something special about now that's not past and it's not present. Or excuse me, I guess I meant to say future. It's not past and it's not future, but it's now. And every second in time is now. So even 1 second ago, if you were too afraid to do something, but now, in this second, you decide to begin now, then now means now. So whenever is now to you and you begin, then that is your moment. And you don't have to worry about whether you said no in the past or what caused you to stop in the past. If you just decide to begin now, then it's in your present, and then you have the ability to change your future because of what you just decided to do now. And then, after you decide to begin now, you can start to seize the moment and seize the opportunities as they come your way, because you'll be secure in what you know you're doing. You know, I don't know anybody who it was a crazy thing to me one day when I walked into my office and I heard God's voice so clearly in the manner of which I'm accustomed to hearing him speak. I heard him say, start a YouTube channel. And we consume a lot of YouTube in our house. I never once thought about being a producer of content, nor do I know anyone personally who's creating any YouTube content. And so when I heard God say that, start a YouTube channel, what I said was, doing what? And I really meant that. Doing what? What do I have that anybody would be interested in? I wasn't even thinking about that. I had no ideas. And you might be surprised what he said to me back was, use what you have. And my eyes were immediately drawn to something I had received for Christmas, which was a coloring book and some colored pencils. And that's how I knew that that's what he wanted me to do, to use what I have. And as crazy of an idea as that was, I began now, which was then, but it was now to me. And when you say yes to something like that, you can expect some help from God. He's not going to leave you stranded. So a YouTuber came across my path named Jillian Perkins, and she has these wonderful videos on YouTube, along with some papers, some guides, I guess you would call them, that you can download on starting a channel, launching a channel, how you begin uploading videos and different things, like checklists is what they're called. And so, somebody like that had never come across my path before, but now all of a sudden her videos come across my path, and I received the help that I needed to figure out how to begin this channel as a startup. And of course, I bounced some ideas off some friends, and found out that another one of my friends had felt led to start a YouTube channel at the same time. So we were kind of in this thing together. And I know you might be thinking, well, why would God tell you to start a YouTube channel? And some of you might even be thinking, how do you even hear from God? God doesn't speak. But God does speak. In fact, He's speaking all the time. It's just that we've really never been taught how to hear God's voice. It's not familiar to us. We're taught that we can hear God's voice through a book, but we're not really taught how to hear the actual Word, who is not a book. He is a person, and His name is Jesus Christ. And He told us that we are to live not by bread alone, not by the food we eat, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. And so His words are still proceeding out of His mouth, and He's always speaking. He can speak to us in many different ways, through many different things. Maybe you're like me. I feel that He speaks to me through nature. My favorite thing to do is to look out into the ocean, which I've written about many times. That's where I feel connected to Him. You may feel connected, through others, through your children, through gardening, planting, through reading. But He definitely speaks to us. Just because we don't hear doesn't mean He doesn't speak. And if you've never heard His voice, you might be wondering, well, what kinds of things would He say? And the first thing He's going to say to you is, I love you. That's the first thing. He will affirm you. God is love. First and foremost, He is love. He is light. And He loves you, and He will affirm your being. many times we don't feel affirmed. We don't feel affirmed by others. We feel condemned. We may condemn ourselves, but that is not God. And I think that we know inside that speaking negatively to ourselves or speaking negatively about others is wrong. You know, it never feels good. It never makes us feel good, because that's not the way of love. And so if you are hearing a voice from others, if pictures, magazines, or anything from the world sort of is speaking to you, words that are not affirming, words that are not loving or of love, that is not God speaking to you. There, that gave us a little bit of a texture to this. And I'm also thinking, let's see here, how do I want to, of adding that same, I tell you what, I've got to decide which line here I want to make the most important. If I want to make this angled line here the most important, or if I want to stick here, or if I want to lay a foundation of some of this color and then go over it with that. But I don't want it to look like, let's just say, a V or an M. So that's going to pose an interesting challenge, but I think, of course, I know I'm up for the challenge, but let's just see here. I think I like that line. I'm kind of curious why she would have designed it like this, but I think what I'll do, okay, I'm gonna go on this one, some circles here, and I'm gonna do it right here also. I just want to take, if I can, the focus off that from looking like a V. Turn to another fine tip pen here. I'm going to turn to the purple fine tip. And we're going to try our circles. Okay, now this one has an even finer tip than that pink. I'm finding that each one of these pens kind of has their own feel to it. As I discovered last time, the dark pink was very, the brush was very good and laid a very good strong color. The other pink laid more of a not quite so clear of a color base. There were times when it looked faded. So getting back to starting the YouTube channel, I really didn't know anything about it. I had nothing in the way of setup as far as for camera and video editing and so forth. So that is what I began to do, was to purchase some of the things that I thought I would need to film and to edit. And right at the time that I was doing that, my oldest daughter also wanted to start a YouTube channel. And that's something that I will tell you, is that there are times when you do something that you are so passionate about that your children and those around you will kind of catch the enthusiasm that you have. and they will want to do what you're doing. And so not only was I starting this YouTube channel for myself, but my daughter, my oldest daughter, wanted to start a cooking YouTube channel. And so we were learning a lot of this together. And I found I definitely needed her help. I'm a good computer-oriented person. But her growing up with technology, starting as young as she has, she definitely helped me when I needed it in the editing and so forth. But at first it was taking over 30 hours a week to edit the videos, which is kind of like a part-time job. And after about the third video, I would think that that's about the threshold for anybody, that you're like, wow, why am I doing this kind of thing, you know? So if you don't have a real clear understanding of what you're doing and why and a purpose for it, you know, you might be tempted to give up early on at something like that. So I always feel that it's very important to know in your heart, you know, that you've got a purpose for something, and that will carry you through hard times. You know, I knew that God had told me to do something, and therefore I was going to do it, no matter the pain that it caused me. As far as, you know, I was really being stretched, you know, to learn video editing, to get back into coloring, or, well, I was really starting coloring, but I ended up really getting back into art and discovering how much I missed art. I hadn't realized how much I missed even reading about artists. And so that's one area that when God does tell you something like that, yeah, this is the pink that tends to look a little more faded, whereas some of these other colors are so solid and strong, and this one just isn't quite as strong of a color. When you begin to do something that God has told you, chances are along the way you're going to uncover something about your life that was missing or broken or not whole, that maybe you didn't even know about or you didn't even think about. And because God is always about restoration and restoring. And that's what He wants to see, is He wants to see all of us, each one of us, restored back into the person that He created us to be. And that's a lot. That is Him doing the work of restoring us, no matter what's happened to us in our life, of Him doing the work that we could never do. We could never restore ourselves. First of all, until we know Him, we really don't even know who He created us to be. We know our birth parents and our family, and all that history does matter, because it does play into who we are. But He's the only one that through relationship with Him will reveal who He created us to be. Alright, as you can see, a lot has transpired on this drawing here. And And that is because I was filming and talking, or thought I was filming, but my storage was full on my device. So I missed about 25 minutes with you where I was talking to you, and there's no way that I can gain that back. So as far as the drawing is concerned, what happened was I was so involved in talking as I started on this outside edge here and then started coloring over here, only to realize I didn't want to color inside here. So what I did was decide to kind of add these like ink blobs all around, finish this border, and then go back and add maybe the darker pink over that. So what I had just started talking about just a second ago here, when I realized my storage was full, I had to offload some other videos, but several months ago I picked up a book called Big Magic, and I cannot think of the author's name, but if I think of it, I'll write it into the description so that you can get that if you want to. And I've never read anything else by this author. It was just this particular title that attracted me, and I somewhat liked her writing style, but then in other areas I didn't. She can write a little bit harshly, so she added some cuss words in there, I guess you would say, that I would not personally put into any of my writing, and that part of it is what I really didn't like. But I did like her writing style as far as she writes very personally, very candidly about her life, but she has sort of a really cool way of just writing like she was talking over a cup of coffee to you. And that aspect I liked. And then I really kind of liked a little bit of the theme of the book, which is why I picked it up. Now here, I wasn't sure if I was going to go over those paint blobs, but I don't think I'm going to. I think I'm just going to leave those. And this is where, you know, not every piece of your artwork is going to come out how you maybe intended or wanted it to, but part of just being an artist, or just even doing this for relaxation, is just to relax while you do it and take the lumps along with the good and just roll with it, go with the flow. And I think you might have missed the whole 25 minutes of me talking about going with the flow. So that's what I'm going to do, take my own advice. I'm going to go with the flow and not be a perfectionist. So anyway, so this book, Big Magic, one of the main thing, the point that really was driven home to me that I think is so important for each of us, is that sometimes when we're children, we discover things that we love. You know, I loved to paint, I loved to draw, I loved everything artistic. And when I got older and I was out in the workforce, I just gave it all up and didn't really do much with it, except that I believe my artistic gift and my eye for color really did help me on my job, because I needed to have a sense of color in merchandising to know what looked good, what was attractive, and things like that. And I do think that that played in my success as far as that goes. But what she talks about there is that a lot of times we put too much pressure, let's say, on our gift, so that artists feel as if their art has to produce monetarily for them, and they put a lot of pressure on their gift, so much so that then they don't enjoy it, or they don't continue on with it. Another thing that we tend to do is dismiss those things that we did while we were young as just things that we did while we were young. And the example she gave was of a friend that she had who loved to ice skate. But when the girl realized that she was not going to become an Olympic skater it was just something that she loved to do, but she gave it up. And it wasn't until she was later in her life and she got on a pair of ice skates and went out onto the ice that she was just absolutely floored at how much joy that it still brought her life. And then she continued to do that. And that's what I think I found through this coloring, is the joy that art always brought to my life, and the joy that being, in the flow of looking at colors and deciding about colors and different things like that, the joy that it brought me. And I discovered and rediscovered that again. And so for that, this channel has been worth it, because it has brought to light something that I didn't even know I had been missing. And it has brought me great joy. And whether these are works of art that would be framed or not doesn't even matter. It's all about being here, doing something that I enjoy, and sharing with others along the way. And so today, I guess I would encourage you to think about those things that bring you joy, and have you stopped doing them? Have you stopped doing something that you enjoy because you're not going to be a world champion at it? So if you stop swimming, did you enjoy swimming when you were young? Did you enjoy cycling? Did you enjoy cooking? Do you enjoy creating? Do you enjoy, just about anything? What was something that was bringing you joy that you stopped doing for one reason or another? I'm a mom of 2, and I know there's things that I stopped doing because I simply didn't have the time anymore to devote to them. But if those things are things that really bring me joy, maybe for you it's playing tennis or sewing, anything like that. Nope. Here's where I almost made the mistake again. I almost started coloring in here and I would have got into that same scenario. So I'm going to avoid that. I'm going to pay attention here for a second and get my lines going where I want them to. And so you wouldn't really even need to read that whole book if you didn't want to. That's the main theme of it, is really not making the thing that we love, the creative thing that we love to do, be our source of income. So, I also have written a book, and I know there's those of you out there that writing is your source of income. Like my sister, she writes for newspapers in Chicago. But the theme of the book was not to put the pressure on what it is that you love, to make that your source of income when you're starting out. So she's an author, and I forget how many books she'd written and how much success she had before she quit her actual day job, if that's what you want to say. So she said, basically, don't make the mistake of you've written a book thinking that that's going to have to produce your income now, and quitting your job and then putting this pressure on this newfound gift that it must somehow produce a living for you. And she said, if you just continue doing what you're doing, but letting your gift flow in creativity, she's saying in the long run, you'll be much, much better. You'll be much better off for it. And that's what I really took away from the book. I took away from the book, why did I stop doing something that I loved just to do it? And that's what I'm doing today. I'm just doing something that I love merely just to do it. It doesn't have to produce anything for me. It just is giving me joy just to do it. And that's what I think, as I was talking about earlier, that after maybe doing your third YouTube video, you kind of are like, why? It's so hard at first to figure out the editing software, and you've got this definite learning curve, but it's not really producing anything for you at that time. And the temptation would be then to give up, and that would be the temptation. I wrote a book, it hasn't become a bestseller, I've gotten excellent reviews, and everyone I know that has read it has loved it. That doesn't necessarily transfer into a New York Times bestseller. Maybe it will be one day, or I will write a bestseller, but to have, let's say, put all my eggs in one basket right away for that would have been wrong, because it would have put too much pressure on my gift. And if then it failed to produce what I had put expectations on it, then all of a sudden that's when you begin to doubt yourself and doubt your gifting. And I think I just touched on something there, which is the expectations, placing unrealistic expectations upon things. And I think we live in a society where everything must produce something. We rarely do things just because they bring us joy. But I think we should get back to that. And become people who be, who are, instead of just people who are doing things. I think I'm going to leave some white space in here. I'm kind of enjoying thinking about that the O in now being a target. It's a target that we should shoot for, to begin now doing something that we want to do, that brings us joy, and that will create life around us, that will make us more peaceful. And that's our target. Our target is to live as human beings, not human doings. Our target is to say no to some of the things that have us doing, and keep us and prevent us from being who we want to be. And then once we know who we want to be, then of course there are things that we will do. But we want to make sure that in life, the things that we really want to do actually get done. The things that are important in life for us individually become our top priority. And while there are things in this life that might be necessary for us to do, that we still have the time to rest. I love this. It's a little bit like a patchwork, kind of like a quilt here. And it is always a challenge just doing the 3 markers. In this one, I chose the colors I was going to use instead of a blind draw. I love it when I'm doing that with my girls and if somebody doesn't get a good color, someone gets brown or something, and then we either redraw or everybody gets to throw one color back in, or we stick with it and just see kind of how it goes. So as I finish this up here, I want to remind you, if you like the channel, to give me a thumbs up and to share the video with others who may find listening to this broadcast helpful, to begin now doing something that is on their heart to do, and to share it to reach the artistic. And to please subscribe. And let me know in the comments if you have any thoughts, or if there's anything you'd like me to color, to work on. And for now, I would just like to give you a challenge, and that is to begin doing something now that brings you joy, something that's in your heart that you've always wanted to do, or you've felt called to do, that it's not going to take too much to do it. You can always begin now doing something, no matter how little or how big it is. The important thing is that it will bring you joy when you begin doing something that you know you really want to do, you really feel called to do, you really feel meant to do, like you were born to do. And don't be discouraged. Don't look out there and think there's a million other people doing this already. I could have done that with the YouTube. There's hundreds of people doing coloring, artistic things, musically. There's many people, thousands of people writing books. But then there's that many people who feel drawn to it and called to it and born to do it in their heart, that they don't do it. And I would say, if there's one thing I could encourage you to do, is to live more a life without regret, and just go ahead and do what's in your heart to do, because it makes you happy and it makes you feel good. It brings joy to you. I guarantee that others will see the passion that you have. They will be inspired by you, and it will all come full circle into your life. And I just want you to know it's been a joy of mine to be here, to talk to you, and to color, and just be a part of your life somehow. So have a great day, and I will see you soon.